So, I mean, what I want to ask you now, Mark, is just around that kind of getting the manager job. Well, kind of this it's a little bit different to Brentford because you're obviously already at the club, but I'm talking maybe Rangers, maybe QPR, Forest, etc. So, in terms of that interview process, there'll be a lot of coaches watching this that maybe in a few years' time they want to kind of go down that route as well. So, what does the interview process look like for a job such as a top manager's position? Is it multiple interviews? Are you presenting your philosophy? Like, what kind of things are you expected to do?
You have a presentation document, Chris. I think most managers will have that, and you will cram and do your knowledge on the squad, the playing squad. That's normal to do. But I think for me that's quite shallow.
Mm,
Um, it depends how you go into interview. So when I left Brentford, had we got promoted to the Premier League, we lost out to Middlesbrough in the playoff. Had we got promoted, I was still leaving. Brent, I was. Matthew made it very, very clear, and a huge respect for him. He writes the checks his way. That's well documented. But it meant that my CV was very strong.
mm,
We'd come promoted with Wolves and got through the playoffs, just missed out in the Premier League. So I had a lot of clubs coming in. So I was lucky that I was being approached. I was in a very, very strong position. And I met the owners of Leeds and kind of all these various clubs and very kindly offered me some very nice offers. And it was when Rangers came calling with David Weir, and that's the biggest club I've ever been at by a country mile in terms of, really is a magnificent. Obviously, West Ham is different, but even then, Rangers is huge.
yeah,
Um, but the interview, when you're in a strong position, you're almost reassuring them, you're reinforcing what they know about you.
yeah,
That's what you're doing. The harder ones, Chris, are when you're going for a job that maybe you want
mm,
and they've got four or five candidates. That's when the interviewing skill comes in. So it's your initial stance, it's your initial position going into the interview that you have to understand.
mm,
So Kieran McKenna now, for example, great, fantastic season with Ipswich, following off a promotion, LMA Manager of the Year. He's now going to have those choices.
mm,
And I don't mean here, I mean in general. What you have to remember is there's a moment that you've got to make hay. When the sun's shining, there's a moment because that window will close.
yeah,
So again, I went to Rangers. We, um, we did well. We won the league by double figure points. We won the Training Cup, League Cup. We beat Celtic semi final, got to the cup final. So, and then the following year we're second, and you get sacked, but your credibility is still very high. It
yeah,
was ridiculous
mm,
sacking. So now I've got clubs calling, and Forest came 2 weeks later.
mm,
But then you start to, in terms of the interviews, is it a British ownership or overseas? Where are they based? Why is that relevant? Because Mr. Marinakis, a lot of respect for what he's done for the club, fantastic. But I only ever saw him at the interview.
mm,
Dave King, the Rangers chairman based in South Africa, I only
mm,
know him 3 or 4 times.
mm,
So that, Matthew Benham, I'm speaking to every day, every night, 9 o'clock, we'd have a phone call. So it's very hard. And if you remember, there's a period of courses about managing upwards. Every course seemed to be about managing upwards. How do you manage upwards, Chris, when you don't have that relationship?
yeah,
So again, it was very, very difficult, but the interview process was from a strong position.
mm,
And then obviously I left Forest. I traveled around MLS, got very close to 3 MLS jobs down the last couple. Um, and then QPR came up and I met with Les and then with Lee. But again, there you're in a slightly weaker position. You've been out of the game, you traveled there, your reputation is still good, but you've now selling it. And an interview to really answer your question, you've got to sell what you're about.
mm,
Got to be honest, and what really I've seen so many times when I've interviewed people, is there are some really good presenters. There are some really good whiteboard people who
mm,
can do a magnificent presentation, but it's taking it from the whiteboard to the grass, Chris.
yeah,
It's actually, some of the young coaches coming through now, I'm older. So therefore they'll be far more used to Keynote, for example, and using Keynote and producing these. I saw one presentation from a young coach. It was like something Steven Spielberg would have produced. It was magnificent. There's music coming in and there's this and it's slick and wow, I'm thinking, wow, MGM are after you, literally.
yeah,
But then the question was, can you take, and when I watched this coach work, no, no, he was bang average, was stuttering his performance. And I was honest with him in a respectful way because he asked me to, that I look at that presentation there, I'm offering you Man United.
mm,
I look at you there, I'm offering you,
mm,
I'm at a lot lower.
yeah,
I was very polite, but you have to be honest, Chris. But that is a frustration for me is that you have these presentations now where people come in and it's very slick. The video is great and the stew and arrows and diagrams. It looks great. You've got to work with the players. And you've got to be able to get on and manage the players. And the players have got to trust you and they've got to respect you. And, when I look at the likes of the top managers in the game, Peps and the Arsens and etc. and Jurgens, I'm not looking at so much at their coaching skills, which I'm sure are excellent, of course, but it's how they've managed their squads. For
Yeah.
Pep to win 4 in a row, it's the man management of the squad. And then people said to me, yeah, but they're not highly paid, they motivate themselves. Okay, well, look, go down to any league, any division. You've got to you've got to be able to have that personality, that trust, that integrity, that consistency of behavior, Chris, to really get across. So in terms of the interview, you're getting that across. This is what I stand for. This is, I believe in a very attack-minded style of play, not open up at the back. So, I attack with this, defend with this. If he goes, here's my shape. This is what I like to do. These are consistent behaviors. This is how we train it. This is how we produce it. Here's the data, which again, data is more and more important. I've come from a background in the city, but it's how you use relevant data and all of this to go in and support your case. But there's got to be a likability about you as well, Chris. The
Yeah.
people in the interview have got to like you, you know. Let me flip back to the city, and I was at a really big bank, and the banks then, here's me, I left school at 16 with 10 O levels. The O levels don't exist now, but I left school with 10 O levels. I was very lucky, good grammar school, good education, but I left to play football. Here I am later at this big American bank, and I'm chief dealer, and I'm interviewing Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Oxford, Cambridge. There's 6 of them sitting there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I literally had a morning long interview, and there's only one that came across as slightly weak in one area. So I've got 5. So this big Aussie guy came in and he went to me, how you getting on, son? I said, well, it's difficult. I said, listen, Oxford Debate Society, MIT top 1%, Stanford, Harvard, doctorate out of Harvard and doing a master's in this. I said, I left school with 10 O levels. I was laughing, but I was very serious, Chris.
Yeah.
He went in there. He went, give me 2 minutes. So he went in, I was in there, and he went in there and I won't use the exact language, he effed and blinded. Like this first candidate, Did you talk to me like that? She was almost in tears. Sorry. And cut long story short, he basically said they've got a great education. It looked fantastic on paper, but the actual common sense, the actual dealing with the confrontation out there, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with that strife and the pressure, 3 of them went straight away. And one guy said, you can call me what you like. He came right back at him, and the guy went, you'll do. And he was a fantastic trader. He was superb, Chris. But it's understanding. It's not just his slick presentation. You've got to be likable, real. But I like that guy straight away. We had a girl, Cockney, as you like, saw her recently, fantastic. And she walked in on her first day, and she was a trainee dealer. Very, very Cockney, right? And she walked in, and we had all these guys, and there's one American guy. She went, "Oh, tea or coffee?" I said, "Yeah, cup of tea, Max, please, be great. Cup of tea, be great." Stevie went, "Cup of tea would be great." And the American guy went, "Could you get me a frappa macchiato with latte?" He went, "Cup of tea, black or white, what do you want?" He said it like that. And Chris, in one fell swoop, we all loved her straight away.
Yeah.
Management clocked it, and she's got what it takes. She had the strength of character to deal with him. He was wary of her for the next 3 years because he had the tongue to go for him. But it's having that, and now her educational CV would be weak in comparison to many other people. They come across as rough and ready on the edges, but top quality lady, top quality dealer still, really fantastic. But you've got to see through this very slick smoke screen is what's the quality of the individual behind it. And I think for the interviews, all the questions you've asked is making sure that you're genuine, that you're likable, that you're honest, and you stick to your values, and also that you're honest enough to yourself to ask the questions you've got to ask, Chris, which is another part of this discussion. But be in the position where you've got to ask the blunt questions, because if you don't have that, you're in a really weak position going in.